it comes to transits or any planet, it's called an ingress if it is moving into the next sign. And it's important because that will indicate an energy shift, right? Transits may stand out more in houses where the sun is not natally in your chart, and that's because it is now fulfilling a need that's not usually there, right? So if you have no planets in the fifth house and then the sun comes through the fifth house, now all of a sudden you might feel more concentrated in that particular area. Whereas a person who already has placements in a house, when a transit comes, they will obviously feel the themes of it, but they already have energy that's working together, right? So let's say someone has this moon in Sagittarius and the sun transits Sagittarius, right? It means that there could be themes Sagittarian that come up more through the sun's need to be seen and noticed and acknowledged, but it's working together with the moon, right? Whereas if a person has no planets at all in their fourth house and the sun transits to their fourth house because Sagittarius is ruling over that house, you're going to notice that this person may start to now kind of feel some themes that aren't typically there. Now, the process of a sun's degree approaching the same degree of another planet can be called applying, right? So that is where you want to look at the degrees and how close they are together. Are the degrees applying? Are they separating? Separating is when they are getting farther apart and the energy may slow down. You may notice the energy decreases at that time. You would want to pay attention to sun sign seasons of the opposite sign or square signs, because there will be moments where it aspects your natal sun and can create obstacles. So if you are a Gemini sun and it is Virgo season, or you are a Sagittarius sun and you're noticing that at certain degrees moved up in Neptune and Pisces, that affected you, right? So it is important to look at squares or oppositions to really see, because it's kind of easier to see those themes, right? Because the square is going to bring about a challenge. The opposition can bring about kind of this polarizing experience, right? Oppositions are more about trying to find equilibrium, trying to find balance, feeling that something is not quite meeting in the middle, right? Whereas a square represents maybe that more challenge, a physical challenge, a mental challenge, something that is more directly you're confronted with, okay? Now, of course, sextiles and trines also play a role, so it would be important as well to navigate those types of, interpretations too. Now, the sun transiting the first house. When the sun is transiting your first house, you may notice there is an increase in your ability to want something that gives you more notoriety, to be seen, to be noticed through your identity. It's like, I'm asserting myself. And you have to look at the sign, because when the sun is in Virgo, transiting my first house, I'm not necessarily becoming big and bold, right? It's not like I'm becoming this, Leo sun. I'm more, extroverted, or I'm more, dominant in that regard. But the sun being in Virgo first house, I am more conscious, or I am more in that period of time aware of the need to showcase my talents, my Virgo-ness, if so to speak, right? So even it doesn't change your disposition, but the sun transiting there can mean like I might feel a heightened sense, or you, depending on what's in your first house, the sun transiting, you feel a heightened sense of needing to make yourself be noticed, seen, to make statements about yourself, to showcase things about you. And it can vary how that plays out. But if your sun transiting your first house, it's also an optimal time. If you are usually more reserved, if you feel like people don't really understand you or know you, the first house transit becomes a great time to do that. It becomes a great time to assert oneself in a way using the energy, if you typically don't like doing that. Now, the sun transiting your second house, stay still and be steady. This means you need to stay put for a moment and really ascertain things and really look around you at what you have of value. Okay, your second house is about what we possess. The second house is what we have, it is what we own, it is how we are making our money. When the sun is transiting the second house, it is a great time to, before you're rushing off or speeding to do something else, to really take a moment to evaluate what you have, right? I said before, I'll say this in this specific the specific slides, it's, it's very important for anybody with fire and air signs, because you're going to benefit from a sense of self-value and a sense of respect for what you already are and have. And sometimes some signs are more, on the move, going here, going there. But when you have a second house transit, you are evaluating what matters. You are evaluating what you have and what you have the ability to accumulate. And it can be a great time for building up resources as well. So if you're usually someone on the go, move, this can be, but you realize and recognize there is a need to, to see what you have already accomplished, to be proud of yourself, to have the confidence about what you already possess. This can be a great time for that. Also, of course, saving, but again, you would have to look at what else is in the chart, because if you're like, wait, I'm about to buy a house, but this, what should I do? The sun's transiting second house, but that's fine, because even though the second house can be about preserving something, the second house is also about possessions. Okay, if we're talking about home ownership, that could be, especially pivotal to look at the fourth house as well. So the sun is transiting the third house. Okay, the sun is transiting the third house. You feel compelled to be acknowledged for what you think, for what you know, and you're not showcasing, broadcasting it, but it's like you might notice that either you gain some type of recognition for what you know. Maybe if you're thinking of a person who passes an important test at this time, someone who, they're taking the exam, I forgot what it's called, to be a lawyer, right? They may pass the test, or they may notice it's a time where they have to show what they are already aware of, right? So when the sun is transiting your third house, it could also be a time where you are, trying to gain more, you're trying to gain more attention in areas of your communication, of your writing, of your thinking. You want people to engage more with what you are producing. This is a great time if somebody is writing something, if somebody is promoting something about themselves, if they have speaking engagements, if you're going to a conference. It doesn't always have to mean you're doing some big, bold thing, right? A sun transiting the third house could be a person who realizes, a turning point in my career was when I went to that conference. The sun was transiting my third house, right? And I went to this conference and I met this really great person, and then we started dating, or I met this person and they offered me a job, right? So think about things also on a micro level, because micro level things can become macro level things later on, all right? Sibling themes can also be highlighted during this transit. When you think of the third house, it's local. It's keeping things around you. Remember, neighborhood. So when the sun is transiting the third house, sometimes it's a great opportunity to really impact those around you, those you are the most close with or familiar with, impacting the way they think. Communication can be heightened as well at this time. Sun transiting the fourth house. So if the sun is transiting the fourth house, you may feel a strong sense of responsibility over the well-being of others or your own sense of emotional confidence, okay? And emotional confidence is like, wait, what is that? Emotional confidence is the ability to trust your emotions and to lead with them. And I know that's such a foreign concept for many people, like leading with emotions. Society tells you that emotions are, irrational, they're radical, they're unstable, but it's like, actually, if you lead with emotion, and you are doing things in the best interest of people, you are showing that you care, you're showing empathy. Actually, being emotionally in touch with yourself means you know how you're feeling, you know your triggers, you know how to respond. You can sense a bad emotion versus a good emotion, a good feeling versus a bad feeling. We have to start to look at emotions as layers instead of looking at it as a crutch and looking at it as a disadvantage. There are times to use logic, there are times to use emotion. And it will depend on the situation at hand. But emotional confidence, it comes from, again, and I think it is aligned to the fourth house intuition of knowing what you are feeling and trusting it. So many times we don't trust ourselves because it's not in front of us. It's a feeling we have. We can't prove it. We think we're wrong. But again, people who are more intuitive start to use that intuition and trust it and see the changes that can happen. You are maybe leading or considering matters dealing with the home. Maybe you're leading a family situation. You're planning a family event. you are dealing with family matters in terms of, maybe something happened with a family member and you're dealing with their home. You are trying to sell a home. You're selling the family home. You're in charge of it. The family's got a conflict. You're trying to come in and save the day. The sun represents that beaming energy of the person that can sometimes be the one that's trying to hold everything together, or you are in some way embodying that role within that emotional situation, within that dynamic, within those types of situations. And again, if it's not a family structure, it simply can mean that you are navigating or leading through your emotions, but also if we look at it like your need, like I need this, my inner need, I'm leading with what I need instead of leading with what I want, or leading with what's exciting, right? The fourth house is not about all that type of stuff. It is about that emotional source energy, our roots and things of that nature. The sun of transiting the fifth house. To distinguish from the confusion between the first, this transit focuses less on identity and more on performance and talents. Okay, I know a lot of times, especially when you are first starting out in astrology, it gets kind of tricky because it's like, wait, the first is self and the fifth house is confidence, but isn't that kind of same? But I get the overlaps there, but in general, remember, we are thinking of the fifth house is what we can do. The first house is who we are. The fifth house is what we can do. And at this time, you may exert more creative energy. During this transit, you might have more endurance. You might be more competitive. If you schedule performance tasks or personal events at this time, if you have a choice to perform at a certain time, on a certain day, or if you notice your energy, vitality, your that energy to get something done, to be the best, to showcase something, to be excited, to be exuding that confidence. Sometimes that sun transiting the fifth house, which really brings about that type of change. This might be a great time to be recognized for your efforts. It's very important at this time that you're recognized, that you allow yourself to be recognized. If you're a more humble person and you're like, well, I'm just doing my job. Yeah, you are. But, we have to learn to build our confidence by accepting compliments, which is very hard for certain signs. It's very hard, especially for a sign like Virgo, to accept compliments. And this is the Virgo rising. This could be the Virgo sun, maybe even the Virgo moon. But Virgo is service. Even Pisces, the acceptance of something, whereas Pisces, I'm just doing what I feel. I just feel this is right. This is just me. This is just me. This is nothing special. And Virgo's well, this is my task. This is my role. I'm supposed to do this. But learning to accept those types of compliments to build your confidence up, and to know when we do something well, we do need to be acknowledged, or we should be. And it doesn't mean we're always going to be acknowledged for every little thing, but to learn to embrace that is going to build confidence, especially in people who struggle with that confidence layer. You want credit for your work, and you may seek opportunities to be noticed for your sense of responsibility. So you may take on something new. You may take on a new task, or you may, be seen, or you might notice that you're more appreciated this time for what you're able to do. Self-improvement, health, and being seen as useful can be highlighted during this transit. People, wow, thank you so much for doing that. Or, right, seeing that people are seeing the small things that you're doing can be heightened during a sixth house transit. And also just being responsible. You're responsible for something at this point in time. It's something that you have to get done. I do personally know, I feel and notice my sixth house transit. My sixth house transit has Aquarius in it. And it's the best time for me to do things I typically don't want to do. So if I want to do something that's out of the ordinary for me, doing it, when I see the moon coming through, and usually I don't even think about it. I just notice, wait, I did something I've been putting off for a long time, but I had the energy to do it. Usually it's the moon actually in the Aquarius moving through, but sometimes the sun as well can give that type of outcome. If the sun is transiting the seventh house, so of course we're dealing with partnership. Your role within partnerships is enhanced at this time, okay? This is a great time to seek or accept partnerships or business endeavors, especially if other aspects are in agreement. So if you're you're looking at your transits, you're like, wow, I see a lot of great things. Venus is well aspected. Jupiter is well aspected. My sun is moving in the seventh house. I'm trying to do this business deal. This could be a great time to do it. Also you could settle legal problems or dispute through the natural traits of your sun sign. So this could also be a great time to use this energy in ways that help you One, here's what I mean. The sun is transiting your seventh house. So automatically that's putting a spotlight on you within partnerships. However, let's say you're a sun in, but you're really so let's say you're a sun in Leo, in general. You might want to use your charm. You might want to use your ability to present to people things that are exciting or new. If you're a Libra, you might want to draw on your Libra talents, your ability to, see both perspectives and be able to speak to dual things in order to help people see that you are able to be fair-minded and impartial. Now, the sun transiting the eighth house, what you believe about yourself isn't enough. Like, eighth house energy is all about this transformative, deep, psychological underpinnings. It is all about the more powerful need for us to take something and make it more intense, to make it more intense. Now, whether that means investing, whether that means things that are intimate, whether that means, topics that are taboo, topics that are serious, that's the eighth house. And so you're focused on this need to be more. I need to be more. This is not enough. I'm going to push myself maybe to the new limit. It also can mean sometimes you feel like you have to rise above. You feel like you have to shine in these situations. This is especially true if the sun is squaring any planets. It's going to feel like maybe a challenge, and sometimes challenges can be very daunting, but sometimes some challenges are the things that keep us moving, and we learn so much from ourselves when we take on those challenges. Now, you may wish to evolve, and this pressure makes you dissatisfied with the status quo. It's like, no, this is not good enough. You're looking at yourself, you're like, I want to be here. Okay, I'm here, but what do I need to do to push myself to the next level? Now, this is not the same as the 10th house need for acknowledgement. The 8th house is the embodiment of power, of internal power, of that. The growth with the 8th house is about transforming into something new, elevating oneself. You may find that you're testing yourself at this point. You're more concerned with how to benefit from resources around you. Okay? The sun transiting the 9th house. Well, 9th house, is really about our journey, our beliefs, our morals, what's right, what's wrong, according to us, right? You can say that a lot of those things are subjective. I mean, I think there's a general understanding among humans of what's right and wrong, but of course, you do know there are variances around what people consider to be moral, correct? So, with the 9th house, again, it can be higher learning, education, things that are going to move you forward, okay? Things that have to do with lifestyle. And by lifestyle, I don't mean like the monetary part of it, but the way in which you embody the things that you believe in. And so your beliefs are more easily expressed or listened to at this moment, okay? You might have more confidence to speak your truth. You might be a person who usually speaks the facts or usually sticks just to what is safe, but at this time, you might feel more bold. And this transit is good for publishing or public speaking where you have a large platform. If we're talking about something smaller like an interview or something a little bit more intimate, that might be more 3rd house. But if you're like, I'm speaking in front of a big audience, I'm going to be at this conference and I'm going to be, presenting this and showcasing that can be very 9th house in nature. This is a less inhibited time for you. And you may be more interested in journeys that build self-confidence. When the sun is transiting the 10th house, serious goal attainment or major updates in your accomplishments is more optimal at this time. Look at that sun in the 10th house. I know for my sun in the 10th house, a lot of the times that I've moved careers or jobs and moved up, the sun's transiting my 10th house. Now, I also, the field I work in, the timing makes sense for when that might happen. So if that is another part of that. But it's, that can be very important time because this transit tends to bring upon promotions, raises, or major career decisions that help your achievement. It doesn't always mean you're being granted something spontaneously or great, but it means it can be a time where you're highlighted, you're noticed, you're rewarded. You start to look in your environment and say, wait a minute, I should be at the top, right? This might be a time where you go for a raise. It might be a time where you do something that is going to advance your career in the long run. And so this is also a time where you may take yourself more seriously. Now, if the sun is transiting the 11th house, you may find that people are more welcoming or notice your attributes more because the sun in the 11th house is about those around you, seeing your light. needing something from your life. Even if you have a sign that is not that you wouldn't think of as like super extroverted, the sun being in 11th house can benefit you in terms of your people perceiving you a certain way. You know, someone could be sun in Cancer in the 11th house, and it's like they are likable. They're not necessarily the loudest person that walks in the room, but they are likable. People come to them. People feel comfortable around them, right? If you're thinking of Cancer energy, you may feel more accepted socially, or see exactly where you fit in within certain groups of people. Like you're the sun, you know, and the people who have the natal sun 11th house may be able to resonate with this, but it's like you go somewhere and naturally people kind of see your light. They naturally see in you the thing that you are, which can definitely be a benefit in many ways in terms of friendship, associations, in terms of advancing yourself socially, in terms of also, you know, work, employment, things like that. Joining groups or organizations is also important because you might be more successful, you might at that time, or you may be more noticed at that time. You know, if you're trying out for something, if it's a child, you know, trying out for a basketball team or something like that. The sun transiting the 12th house. You may appreciate or want solitude at this time, even if you're usually a very extroverted person, because the sun is now going to a house that is quite hidden. People who have our natal sun in the 12th house, we already know what this feels like, right? Because we're always kind of, you know, we've learned to navigate this, right? But here it's like it's your sense of confidence is from your inner world. And even when you engage with the outer world, your inner world is important as well, which is very interesting, the 12th house. So you need to disconnect or learn how to cope on a spiritual level and develop traits that are less self-serving. The sun in the 12th house is not just about serving self. It's not just about what you want and how to be this and that. The 12th house requires a little bit of a submission to there's greater things beyond us. It's 12th house, spiritual gateway. Okay, this is the unconscious, the higher self. Now, again, the 12th house can be a cloud. It can be a nebula. I've talked about this many times in videos about the 12th house. But in general, this is a great time to build that more compassionate nature, to build a sense of, you know, connection on yourself, the things that are more esoteric, the things that kind of, it's weird because the 12th house can feel lonely, it can feel isolated, but it's really like you're connected to everything and nothing at the same time. Like, you know, physically you may feel like you're isolated, but really when you isolate yourself and you're creating or you're doing something for humanity or you're doing something for, you know, you're helping someone, you are doing something that is not selfish, that is selfless. You are in some way giving a sense of, you know, giving a sense of, you know, empathy, or you are in some way designing something that's going to help people in ways that are meaningful, that becomes very much aligned with a higher self type of energy. It's also a great time in general to work behind the scenes on projects or personal tasks that don't require deadlines, okay? 12th house does not care about a deadline, does not care, okay? But this could be rooted in a personal endeavor. If you enjoyed the video and got some value out of it and you want to be able to refer back, please feel free to download the PDF. It is a free download for a limited time where all of this information is available for you to review via the PDF slides. I also embedded some guiding questions. So at the end of the slide, you'll see some questions to ask yourself based on the sun sign transit. So if the sun is currently in Sagittarius or Capricorn or Scorpio or Virgo, etc., and all you have to do is find it and see where it is in your chart, and then start to ask yourself those guiding questions to really get the best value out of these transits.